Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We are here today to talk about insurance and insurance tech. What and how is technology being applied for the insurance industry as we look at new companies that are actually working around automotive, health, and other areas of insurance, working to improve our lives and make them easier. And we've brought together the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you today their thoughts and insights on how this industry is moving and shaping up as we look ahead to this very transformative, digitized decade ahead of us as well. And if you'd like to be on a show like today to share your thoughts and insights and on the ground perspective around not just insurance tech, but also other technologies, industries, and regions around the world, we'd love to have you. And please do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find that right spot for you. Entrepreneurs, this goes for you as well. We have a virtual stage here at VCTV for you to get up on. Tell us about your company, product, or service, and get real-time feedback from investors investing in your industry. Reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find that right spot for you. Speaking of the team, a big thank you to the Token team and to Maria and Hasmik for making VCTV possible every single day and bringing us all together to share with you the latest and the greatest around, again, technologies, industries, and regions around the world. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and start introducing our guest for today before we get into questions and around today's topic. Raghu, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro and a little background.
Thank you, Kyle. My name is Raghu Rao. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey. I have a consulting company called Harvesting Enterprises, which helps companies from seed to harvest. In terms of the insurance side, my interest is more from the data, the cybersecurity aspect, as well as automation.
Wonderful. Well, welcome back. Excited to dive into that, especially around security today and insurance. When we think about insurance, there's a lot of information that's collected, a lot of information that's shared, a lot of information we don't see as consumers. How is that data going to be protected? How is that data also maybe going to be automated? And for that, we've brought in the Grand Master of Artificial Intelligence, ladies and gentlemen, Gary Fowler. Welcome back to the show. A little intro and a little background.
I mean, you always get me with this Grandmaster thing, I got to tell you, but it's great to be here, Kyle. It's great to see our friends, Raghu. So it's, my name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which is sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion 21 months ago. I'm also the co-founder of Yva.ai, a unicorn in the AI HR tech space. I love AI and quantum computing. I've written over 100 articles in the last year on AI and quantum. I also am the CEO, co-founder, and president of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI venture studio located in Silicon Valley. We help companies go global. I'm also an investor personally, and we're building a $100 million fund, an impact fund out of Atlanta, Georgia. So I love that. And like I said, it's great to be here with Brett and Raghu and Kyle, and look forward to this discussion today. It's great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you as well, Gary. It's always a pleasure to have you. And then last but not least, Brett, welcome back to the show. A little intro and a little background.
Sure. Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for having me. Great to see everybody. Brett Noyce, founder and director of Unventures, early stage investor syndicate. Primary focus is fintech, insurance tech being one of the sub-verticals of that, SMB automation, future of work, and regulatory data compliance.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brett. Brett, Gary, Raghu, again, welcome. Diving right into today, insurance. This is a non-exciting, boring industry as most categorize it. However, on the flip side, it's actually a fast-moving and rapidly changing industry that's become very exciting over the last 18 months as we've really looked at the digitization of the industry as a whole. And would love to hear from each of you what you're seeing as your on-the-ground perspective of how this big industry has transformed again over the last 18 months, whether it be around automotive, whether it be around health, or just in general. How has insurance changed from your perspective? And Raghu, let's kick it off with you.
Yeah, I think as usual, the pandemic has a large effect on all industries, but especially on insurance industry, because it's a lot to do with data driven transparency and things like that. So remote servicing is, I think, has become very important. Part of that is verification, right? For instance, for health medical insurance, you have to get the medical tests and things like that, and lot of that is now happening remote. Remote testing kind of things, self-service, some of those chatbots, AI, these are trends that are happening. Wellness measures can be for data or for health, right? So those things are being factored in, so you can actually the actuarial calculations can give you better benefit if you have a better lifestyle in terms of taking care of yourself or your data from the cyber side of it. So the cyber side of it is very, very important, because ultimately there's so much data, and the more the cyber governance aspect is something that a lot of the insurance players are incorporating into that, because as you know, the breaches have become a very big thing, and insurance industry has not been at the forefront of that. So I think they're looking at the better cybersecurity and data privacy aspects, building that into. And Insuretech is, there is a lot of players who are focusing on that.
Absolutely. And it's becoming even more important. As you mentioned, we're seeing more remote activity, remote engagement around many of these platforms as well. And having that added security layer is going to be important, especially as we're doing more from our mobile devices as well, Raghu. And I want to come back to you a little bit more on security and what's to come here in just a moment. But Gary, to you, I mean, what have you seen change over the last 18 months around insurance tech in general? I know you've talked a little bit about it from the real estate perspective, but maybe also from an automotive, from a health, and any other areas that you're seeing insurance really take place.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is, so now that we've got these smart cars, right, and hopefully soon to be intelligent, imagine all the data they're collecting about our driving behavior. And I was with a senior executive, VP of innovation from the largest insurance in the U.S. Actually, he was the chief innovation officer. And they're looking at people signing up now to get insurance based on their behavior. How fast are they driving? Those collecting statistics on the car, and then basically giving you the insurance tailored to your driving pattern. So if you're a good driver and you don't drive fast, you get rewarded for it. So that kind of thing. The other thing is, Kyle, what I'm seeing is this interesting transition, because as we're moving to self-driving cars, this whole idea of insurance moving forward is going to dynamically shift, because who are you going to be insuring now? If the car's driving you're not involved in the driving process, it's taking you around. What happens? Now, the other part of the question that's interesting, and we just recently started to explore this, is that as we start to move to these driverless vehicles and everything starts to change, what happens if an individual does want to drive? Are you now at an astronomical rate because of that, or is your rate lower because there's less risk of having an accident? So these kind of questions are coming out. Then if we look at insurance from a wellness perspective, imagine all the data points we're able to collect today. I know earlier today, we were on a panel talking about wellness, and look at all the data from the Apple Watch, from the Fitbit, from the Garments, all the data that can be collected to be able to come into the equation for insurance. And, tying it back to the entire healthcare system, instead of having a once a year checkup, having a real-time understanding of where you are so you can catch problems earlier, and insurance companies can save a lot of money. So we're in an incredible stage. The data that's around us, the data that these insurance companies have, I mean, imagine going through all the social media accounts and basing your insurance on a 360-degree view of that particular person. Everything starts to change. So we're excited about it. There's a lot of data to be analyzed. Insurance companies have processes that can be much more efficient. Now technology's out there, so if you have an accident, send in the picture right away, getting reimbursement at a moment's notice. The other thing is, in terms of these platforms, I just went through one of them myself for insurance. And one of the things this is for corporate insurance, there was an entire portal set up by Geico, and actually a third party came in and they were bidding on insurance for us. And I got the insurance quote back in a matter of minutes, and I signed up in less than half an hour. When I did it 3 years ago, it took me a couple of weeks to get that insurance policy through. The same one it took me minutes to get through this time.
And that's a great point. I mean, that speed, that process, everything has changed. And Brett, I mean, you focus heavily in this area as well. Would love to hear your thoughts. Anything to add on to what Gary and Raghu mentioned, but in general, what have you seen really transform over the last 18 months in the industry?
Yeah, well, both of these gentlemen had great thoughts on the subject of where things are going. From like the very early stage stuff, what we've seen over the last like 5 years is just kind of like two sides to this. There is the like the incremental just digitization, which is very boring, but it's the industry is kind of like has moved so slowly that there's big opportunities in just bringing stuff online and just making the process like Gary was just talking about. So there's great opportunity there. Like to what you were saying, that seems a little, those companies are boring, but are solving real problems. And they, can either compete, against the insurance groups, or, generally they partner with them and, just distribute the product. And the other side is, kind of the other stuff that other people have been hitting on here is like, there's more of the frontier tech, which is kind of, the more exciting stuff where you start to use drones, or you're adding an AI layer to, the claims process. So I feel like there's just two different sides. There's like this really kind of boring, incremental change, and then there's this frontier stuff that's coming in all at the same time.
Absolutely. So where do we go from here then? With that being said, all this stuff is upcoming. All these things are coming in. Things are changing. We've got more technology being applied. We've got automation throwing into the equation. I mean, where do we go from here, Brett? I mean, where do you see the future going for the next 2 to 3 years around insurance tech? I mean, if there's people listening right now looking to make investments, make bets, or really start to build in this area, what should they be thinking about to make sure they're including into their products and services?
Yeah, great question. And I feel like Gary can probably has the more frontier ideas, but where do we go from here? I think the adoption is going to be slow, so I feel like there's still a lot of opportunities just to look at the stuff that's happened in the fintech space with banks, and then just apply it to insurances, and just look at it. Instead of like looking at the industry as a competitor, I think there's great opportunity to work with insurance groups and figure out ways to partner with their innovation arms and create products and services just to bring them into the digital era. I feel like there's tons of opportunity. We have years ahead of that. If you're more on the frontier side, trying to solve these like future stuff, that's a skill set you have, right? There's massive opportunities. I just think the adoption it's going to take a while. I could be wrong on that. I'd love to hear other people's comments on like where they think the adoption of frontier tech, like, is it around the corner, or is it years down the road?
Yeah, great point. Let's throw that to the group. I mean, Gary, how do you feel about that? Frontier tech entering into the insurance space. Is this something we'll really see here in the next year or so, or is this something that's more 5 years out?
I mean, it's already started. I had the conversation with a chief innovation officer 2 years ago. So it's not something that they're not thinking about today. I mean, it's already started. That the data is around us. It's, whenever the interesting thing about innovation, it doesn't really happen all at one time. It happens gradually over time. So it's creeping in very, look at electric cars and now driverless cars coming into picture. 10 years ago, we didn't talk about it much at all. Now look at it. So it's already happened. And the devices, finally, we've gotten to a point with artificial intelligence is at the level that it can accomplish the task based upon having technology that can support it in a package that makes sense for us, right? Look at, our mobile devices that we have, and these Garmin and Fitbit health devices that can really be part of this whole program in terms of health insurance. So the technology's there. The key is we need to tie everything together. It's happening. It's so ideal with the Internet of Things. I know I had a conversation with the general manager of Intel's Smart City and IoT group worldwide. And these are some of the conversations that we had. So the future is now. The key is for the companies to understand that dynamic shifts taking place, and they need to be on board with it. And they need to do it sooner than later if they want to get into these reindeer games, because it's now. Data is the fuel. If you look at articles that have been written about Insuretech over the last 18 months, many of the articles talk about data. And what is insurance all about? It's managing risk, right? And so it's all about the data. So the more data they have, and then being able to, instead of having one package meets all, have a situation where it's really tailored, as I said, for an insurance car standpoint, based on your driving behavior. So it's an exciting time. It's happening as we speak. It's not like yesterday's news. It's happening now, and the changes are taking place, and the opportunity is today.
So can I interject real quick question for you, Gary?
Please.
Though, do you think that people are going to be willing to give up this data, or like how do you think the adoption of that's going to look? Like, I feel like people are like, the data's there, but people are getting more and more wary about giving up their data. So I feel like it's like a double-edged sword.
This is the challenge, right? And I've spoken about this multiple times. The problem is we want things for free, and what we're paying with is their data today, right? So if we go on Google, what are we? Google's not free, Gmail's not free, but yet we all use it. We assume it's like this public kind of thing, but it's not. So the point is, if we want to have custody of our data, which I think is a good thing, we got to understand we're going to have to pay for some other things, and we're going to have a mental shift, because we've been trained to have. I did it myself with Findo, the company that was a predecessor to Yva. I did a Google-like search for the personal cloud. People loved it. The problem is they didn't want to pay for it, because they were so used to getting things for free from Google, they didn't want to pay for it. So we just have to have a mind shift. I think controlling the data is really important, but at the same time, look at when we log into all these disparate systems out there. Would you like to log in with Facebook, right? and we wonder why we get so much garbage, right? And yet at the same time, we want those systems for free. So I think we need to have a shift. We're moving more in that direction in terms of controlling our data. But the other challenge is we have such massive amounts of data in our own lives. It's really hard to control it. So as I've said many times, we have about 300,000 items right now with our own personal cloud, excluding IoT. And I'm estimating that in 5 years, based on IoT, there'll be about 10 million. We can't even take it, look at it today. If you get email, for instance, where did you send it? Did you send it to LinkedIn, Facebook, WeChat, Telegram? It's hard to control our own lives. So we need to have these intelligent assistants to be able to help us, almost like a guardian angel that's got emotions built in, that understand the kind of things we want, and to help us manage our lives better. We need to have something like that can help us, because we're inundated. As Alvin Toffler said, we're in a state of infobesity.
And with that, I mean, coming back to Raghu, thank you, Brett, for a great question as well. I mean, Raghu, I want to come to you on this. I mean, data. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be ugly. Would love to hear your additional thoughts on what Gary mentioned, but also now come back to security. How do we protect this data? How is this data even be?
Kyle, I got to tell you, you keep using the good, bad, and the ugly thing. I love it, man. It makes me feel
There you go. There you go.
I was waiting for the music to start in.
I'm looking for the cue button, the cue music button.
We got to do that. I think this could be another kind of show,
There you go, Maria and Hasmic. We'll mark that. We'll start music cues on Monday with VCTV, Gary. This is great. Thank you, Raghu. Again, security. How do we protect all this data? If we give it up or we don't?
Thank you. I think what Gary was saying about infobesity, it's not going to go away. The issue is not about, the data size is not going to go away, because we have so many things generating data, right? The IoT and all these wearables and things like that. The thing is, how can we control how the data is, whoever owns the data, how they share it. And that has been the whole business model where all these people are taking the data away for free, and then obviously we lose our own data, right? So that aspect of that goes to data privacy, right? The security is one aspect, privacy is the other aspect. I think specifically in terms of Insuretech, what I would like to bring to awareness is something called preparedness or proactive nature, so that people who take care of their own health, or people who take care of their data privacy and security systems, they should get a discount in the insurance. And there's a concept called safe harbor. Safe harbor is if you can show that even if there is your data is breached, right? Somebody breached your system. I'm sorry, not the data. The system is breached. It does not result in a data breach. If you can show that, you can obviously get better rates for your insurance, right? So cybersecurity, I think it needs to move to a decentralized type of model. Just like blockchain, the decentralization gives you transparency. The decentralization of cybersecurity will give you, that what I call a cyber vaccine, so that the system breach does not translate into a data breach, which is very important because we have all these hackers with the same technologies that are helping with advancing the protection part. The hackers are using to hack into systems, right? The same AI and the quantum computing power and things like that. So we have to introduce new methodologies in there where the raw computing power or the human behavior like insider threats or things we are able to protect against those. And that's where I think this decentralized cybersecurity type of things will help. And with regard to privacy, one of the things is that when the data is wherever it is created at the source, we need edge devices that will actually do two things. One is filter out the relevant data so that you don't have a lot of data becomes knowledge or information. So you're culling out the important things. So at the edge itself, so it doesn't go all the way to a central place and then a lot of processing has to happen. So the edge computing is very important from that perspective. The second aspect of privacy is that you need predictive, you need to dissociate the data from the personalized information so that you can share the data for people to use the legitimate purposes, but no, it doesn't come back to hurt you personally. So I think those are kind of, aspects that are getting into the picture, but they are across industries, but particularly important for the insurance industry.
Yeah, this is very, very interesting. And Brett, I want to come to you for any additional comments on Raghu's point, but also I want to talk a little bit about fintech. And where is insurance and fintech? Insurance and fintech kind of crossing over, blending a little bit as we move into this more digital banking or digital payments era here. Actually, as Gary's mentioned before, it's happening right now. But as we look to the next year and a half in front of us, where does insurance play a role in our financial lives or livelihood? Oh, I think you might be muted.
What happened there?
There we go. We're good.
Great question. I don't know if I have a great answer to that. Where's the crossover? Yeah, I think as you kind of pointed out, obviously payments. I feel like there's the opportunity for this real-time, kind of adjustment of payments. I think that both Gary and Raghu spoke about. Kind of going back on this question, though, where I see kind of the industry, like fintech, really kind of from my experience, really kind of took off in about 2014, 2015, was kind of almost like a movement. Obviously, we see the stuff going on with Robinhood in the last day. I don't want to get into that, but so we've kind of seen that go through its peak, and a lot of interesting companies have come out of that wave. I feel that the insurance tech has really lagged, so I don't know if we'll follow the same kind of adoption curve, but I feel like there's the opportunity. Like people are just, it feels like innovation is starting to trickle in, like it already exists, right? So I feel like from an entrepreneur standpoint, you just kind of have to take a look at some of the innovations, the digitizations that has happened in fintech, and just see if there's a similar use case within insurance. So I feel like there's plenty. It's just lagging, right? I feel like there's just so many things that just say, hey, can we make this more digital, right? Is there a better way to use the technology that already exists and apply it to individual use cases within insurance?
And what do you think might be a cause of that lag as well? Or how do we overcome that lag as well? I mean, entrepreneurs that are listening, what can they do?
I think you have to go back to 2008. So I think the financial crisis started, was kind of the emphasis, or the starting point of like the kind of the Robin Hood era, and there was this kind of anti-financial system movement that was going on. Insurance companies are just better, across the board have been better run. They weren't, upside down and needing bailouts. So I don't think they haven't had like a catalyst where they really have to change, right? So I think, a lot of these, insurance companies are, 100-year-old organizations, based in the Midwest. Innovation isn't, the big culture, but I think that a lot of them are really starting to realize that the customers are demanding better products, and they're really going to have to innovate if they want to, continue to be around for another 100 years.
That's a good point. And, Gary, I want to come back to you on another question. I mean, if you're laying your bets in terms of where to really not only invest, but also build over the next, again, 18 months, maybe 2 years ahead, where are you picking the places that really need to be focused on around insurance and insurance tech? I mean, AI is number one, but dive a little deeper on that.
So AI, cybersecurity, and blockchain, the same kind of issues we're having across multiple vertical markets. As I said, I mean, what we have now is we've got more data-driven opportunities out there today. So being able to look at all kinds of things to come up with a risk assessment, whether that means IoT, whether that means social media platforms, et cetera, it really gives us a deeper guide than we've ever had before. And of course, Kyle, we talk about blockchain. This is really going to revolutionize it, actually allowing us to become a lot more secure than we are today. And so, they can create their smart contracts, for that are self-executing, which typically you would get an insurance policy. I don't know about you, but again, I'm a country boy. We used to go into the State Farm office, have to go in, sign the documents, et cetera. So we can really streamline and optimize the services that are provided. The other thing is, adding things, what I'm really interested in is things like XR. Can imagine for crash investigation, allow investigators to assess damage using the 3D image without, having to visit the site themselves. I mean, because what is it? Well, it's going to take 3 days. They're going to come out. But imagine having that kind of a capability. So I'm excited about using some of the technologies that we've already put in place and really moving over with computer vision and XR over to the insurance tech environment. And the other thing is, we're going to see a lot more in terms of cloud computing. So to be able to really optimize how the insurance companies work with their brokers and how that broker can in turn work with the customers a lot closer. So we're going to see that through 2021, in my opinion. And so the other thing is, as I said earlier, when we do premiums, the challenge is having premiums based on a large population of a group. But we need to really market these products towards the tech savvy groups, that really want to stay on top and want fair premiums. Why should I be in the same category as somebody else? If they capture you when you get a ticket, they capture you when you have an accident. But what about in between and people are speeding? Why should I have to pay for them, right? Because the likelihood of an accident is a lot higher. So we need to be able to pull in the data from things like IoT devices, everything, on the healthcare side, from wearable fitness trackers to car telematics. And that's really an interesting opportunity today. All the companies out there, including the insurance companies, are looking at ways that they can dive into deep learning, machine learning a lot deeper. And the I don't want to say millennials, but the discerning younger customers want to make sure that they're getting the value out of their insurance. And, now it didn't used to be, but now you can go out and you can have the insurance companies compete with one another for the same kind of insurance. So that didn't really exist before. You had to go to Progressive. You had to go State Farm. But now having the portals where it's not like this, secret society, you can go out and bid it. Just like I said, I did with insurance recently. I went into a portal in Geico, and really in a matter of minutes, I had the insurance in place. It would have taken me weeks before. So I'm really interested in that. And then the other thing is things like robotic process automation to make the system across not only the brokers, but back to the insurance companies more streamlined. So we're going to see a lot more of that coming into place today.
Wonderful. And I think you're calling out something great. I mean, the idea of flexible pricing, and Brett, I'm going to come back to you around the future of fintech here in a few moments, but this is also something we're seeing in many other industries as well. As when it came to insurance, and speaking very specifically around automotive and even health as well, as you paid one flat rate, $100 a month as an example. It never changed. No matter how good of a driver you were, no matter how healthy you were or not healthy or bad driver, it doesn't matter. Always $100 a month. And now, to your point, Gary, I think there is a generation incoming, and Generation Z, Generation Millennial, whatever we want to refer to it. There is a generation that's challenging all that, saying, I don't want to pay $100 a month flat rate. I actually want to be judged based upon my performance. And based on that performance, I actually want to lower costs as well, right? If I'm doing a good job, I should be rewarded for that, not have it go unnoticed. As well. And so you're calling it out right, that data, and then tying all of these devices, including the automotive, mobility, or the vehicles themselves and everything else around us. We bring in smart cities and how we, act and walk around and interact with the city, the office space, all of these intelligent devices. Now we can start to see that flexible pricing or variable pricing. And it makes so much more sense as to why we're seeing those premiums. And hopefully we'll see transparency, as you brought in, or blockchain was brought in. We'll see transparency into why those prices are being fluctuated as well. And there are a few companies out there in the blockchain space that are working on this as well. So Brett, coming over to you, the future of fintech, where do we go from here? What's getting you excited? Switching gears into the future of fintech. It's another area you focus on. We had some wild, crazy activity in fintech over this past week. But beyond that, what has you looking and really excited for fintech over the next 12 months?
Great question. I think at this point I'm a little bit cynical about it, right? We've kind of ridden this wave up and down. So I don't know what I'm excited about. But I just like the thing across the board that this always brought me into this space is people, entrepreneurs that are using technology to deliver better financial services and the democratization of that. And so I had an interesting conversation with a representative from Varro yesterday, and they were talking about how they're, bringing banking services to the unbanked and underrepresented. So I love that space. We'll always love entrepreneurs that are focusing on figuring out ways to use technology to, just bring more people into our financial system. I'm more and more, I think, against things that are gamifying it. So I think we obviously seen how that could play out in a negative way. So finding that balance where you can use technology to make the processes better, cheaper, the ability to onboard customers, do all the KYC, and have a secure product, and you can just and have those efficiencies that allow you to deliver a product that the larger, financial institutions are not, able or not willing to offer to people that are underbanked or unbanked as well.
That's a great point. Thank you. Thank you, Brett. Raghu, coming back to you, looking at bio and pharma, where do you see things going? And again, similar question to Brett, what's getting you excited about the opportunity areas that are emerging in the bio and pharma industries that you're focused on?
Yeah, I think the key is continuous monitoring, right? See, a lot of these technologies have been based on periodic audit-based kind of thing, right? Like whether it's cybersecurity audit, maybe once a quarter, health, checkups, physicals, or once a year. I mean, that concept is going away now. It's all about continuous, gathering of data. Of course, data privacy and security is another aspect of that, because you're getting so much more data, because you're getting it immediately and over, many data points are there. But what the continuous monitoring gives you is that it lets you do personalization, like you were talking about flexible pricing. seen the financial industry, the credit rating, for instance, you know very well, like, you go and you have like a bounce check, or, you make a large, charge. Immediately, it's reflected in your credit rating, right? There is people know, what are the parameters to look for. Whereas in biotech or healthcare area, it's still kind of we don't know exactly what is causing our premiums to go up or things like that. So I think AI coming in, and people being able to control their data, like Gary was talking about in the automobile insurance. Everyone has this smartphone now, which is like which has got better cameras and better capabilities for getting health information and things like that than anything we had before, even at the specialized offices, in the doctor's office or whatever. So we can use those things to get this kind of continuous information, so that it works both ways. People who have good behavior, doing proactive things, they can get better premiums because their risk is less, right? And ultimately, insurance is about risk management. So it's not purely actuarial, which is based on statistics, but actual data-driven insurance. I think that is happening because of the sensors we have, right? Things, personal sensors, as well as all these cameras and things like that, as well as being able to process the data using more of trends as well as personal data. The personalization aspect is kind of coming in, which was not there in the traditional insurance model.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And with that, I want to come to each of you for closing thoughts. Thank you, Raghu. Around advice in your closing thoughts, if you can, advice for companies building an insurance tech over the next year. What do they need to know? What do they need to be aware of? What is one thing that you can leave them with today to get them excited for what's to come? And in addition, where can you be found online to continue the conversation? Gary, let's start with you. Piece of advice in your closing thoughts today for those entrepreneurs out there and or investors looking to get into the insurance space here in the next 12 months, and then where can you be found online? Oh, Gary, apologies, you're muted there, but we'll let you adjust. There you go.
Data is all around us, and insurance companies base their decisions on data. So there's a great opportunity, as we've said many times, for companies that are involved in artificial intelligence, chatbots, getting closer to the customers, all kinds of things in insurance. It's really evolving very, very quickly. So I'm excited about the opportunities. I'm excited about being able to come up with custom solutions for particular clients right on the fly. I'm excited about the Internet of Things and being able to understand driving patterns and health patterns to come up with better insurance rates that are truly customized. So I love this hyper-personalization. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn or Twitter. Love to hear from you. And it's a great opportunity, and let's go get them.
Thank you very much, Gary. Brett, back to you. Same question. Piece of advice, closing thoughts. Where can you be found online?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's opportunity on both the low tech and the high tech side of this. So the industry is, due for a big upgrade. So there's big opportunity to, partner or, sell into insurance companies. So there's big opportunity there. And there's also big opportunity on the frontier tech as you look at, where the future is going. But one last thing I kind of want to leave that we didn't necessarily talk about. No one really loves their insurance. Like, it's kind of like something you have to need. You buy it and you don't love it. So, if you're an entrepreneur, I'd really be thinking about it from the user experience standpoint. Like, how can you design a better process, a better product, something that people absolutely love. And with that, you can find me at brnoise@unventures.co. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Twitter at Brett Noise. And as always, thank you guys.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Gary. Raghu, close us out. Closing thoughts, piece of advice for the audience, and then also where can you be found to continue the conversation?
Sure, I agree with Gary, and the thing is that it's a very exciting time because things are switching from kind of traditional time-based models to now continuous model, right? So that is, I think, where there's a lot of opportunity for many industries to come in, and data and cloud are at the center of it. So cybersecurity and privacy to kind of provide guardrails for the data. I think those are areas where there's going to be a lot of activity. I can be found on LinkedIn at Raghu S. Rao, and look forward to engaging with any of the companies in terms of strategy, advice, investment, whatever is their important aspect right now they're looking at.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raghu, Brett, Gary, for sharing your thoughts and insights around today's topic. Again, insurance tech, as well. To your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, share, and also check out the archive on latoken.com to hear more from Brett, Gary, Raghu, and all of the VCTV family as we, again, bring the best and the brightest from around the world as investors to share their thoughts and insights and on-the-ground perspective around different technologies, industries, and regions as well. And if you'd like to be on a show as an investor or as an entrepreneur to share your company, product, or service, get real-time feedback, and build relationships with us here on VCTV, reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find the right spot for you.
Little music to clap by. The good, bad, and the ugly.
And here on VCTV, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, as Gary's pointing out with our new soundboard that we've just installed. And speaking of all of that, we couldn't do this here on VCTV without the team. And a huge thank you to the Latoken team, to Maria and Hasmik and everyone else, including the VCTV family, Gary, Brett, Raghu, and many others that make VCTV possible. A big thank you to each and every one of you. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott, along with Brett, Gary, and Raghu on all social media platforms. And remember to add context when you reach out so we know how to best continue the conversation. With that, we'll see you back here next week with more VCTV. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care. See you.